Hey everybody, Nick here, and today we got a review for you of this little guy. This is the Three Rivers Manufacturing Thunderbird. First off though, I actually want to thank Three Rivers for sending this guy along. I mean, full disclosure, this was loaned to me by Three Rivers themselves, and as I always do, I told them, I'm going to give an honest review, the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. They said, sure, what the heck, why not? And sent it along, and so thank you, Three Rivers. I tried not to let that, influence my my opinions unduly and whatnot, but there you go, full disclosure. Size comparison, this is a moderately sized knife. It comes in a little bit under 3.5 inches here, size-wise, so that's good. A little more than 3.2, 3.25 that is. Here it is against your Ontario rat number 1, and your rat number 2 is around here someplace, I swear to you. Here we go. And so again, it's in that nice moderate size range. And then finally a thickness comparison. This knife is a little bit on the thicker side, but it's actually not so bad as you might expect. Coming in here about the same thickness as the Ontario Rat number 1. So it's thick, but, yeah. Anyway, so let's go on ahead. Oh, and then finally a quick note on Three Rivers themselves. So this is a company that has made a lot of knives, but they haven't made a lot of knives under their own brand. They are an original equipment manufacturer, an OEM, for a bunch of different people. And so they're contractually obligated not to tell you who they made knives for and whatnot, but they've made a lot of knives that you probably have heard of. So there you go. So it's nice to see them finally making some stuff for themselves. So let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting little knife here. First off, on the good side, this has a very nice and thin, slicey blade. What I mean by that is, well, if we look at it, it gets pretty thin behind the edge pretty quickly here. The blade stock itself isn't all that ridiculous. The stock thickness looks to be maybe a hair thicker than the Ontario Rat 1, but it's not a hugely thick kind of thing. And the blade itself is an LMAX steel, although they also have models available in Nichols Damascus steel, which is actually, I think, probably really compelling looking. I haven't seen pictures, but still. And so that's good. It has a very nice sharpening choil here, where they cover the entirety of the plunge grind with it, which is great. It has a sort of reverse tanto-ish look profile thing. It's got a nice swedge on the top here. I mean, it's nice. I can't argue with the blade at all. And I think I said LMAX, but yeah, it's LMAX. So that's nice. It is also made in the USA, over in USA. Wow, it's like the USA, oi. But anyways, made over in the States in Massachusetts. So there you go. And then, yeah, next thing, this has a very nice clip. If we take a look at this clip here, what we can see is a big, beefy, bulky clip here. But the thing is, it's got some flex to it, and it's nice and long. A long clip is something that I always appreciate. And so this is very easy to get into the pocket, and it stays very securely in there. The weight of the knife coupled with that, yeah, that's a nice thing, I gotta say. So that's good. Next thing, there are some nice details all around this thing. For instance, this has an internal lock bar relief cutout. What I mean by that is that on a lot of knives, you have a lock bar relief that's cut out like this here, but here you can't actually see the lock bar relief because it's all inside of here. It's a little detail, but ergonomically it's nice. It makes this surface a little nicer, and it just leads to more uninterrupted lines, which is something that's nice and something you don't see all that much very often. The bearings, including detent ball, are all ceramic, which is not a huge deal, particularly in the bearings department, but it's always nice to see. They've got a nice little pivot here, which is faceted in an interesting way, and it's actually got a little gem in there. This is like an honest-to-God ruby in the middle there. See if I can shed a little light on the subject. Hopefully you can see now. Yeah, that's like a ruby bearing or something like that. But that's kind of neat. Why not, right? And it's got a well-done lanyard post, meaning that I just don't care that this has a lanyard hole because it's pretty unobtrusive to me. And it does have a tiny little flipper tab. Oh my God, I love this very, very much. That's a nice little detail here. And then finally, on the details front, as I showed you during the disassembly, the backspacer for this knife is actually part and parcel of this handle here, this side of the scale. So really, it's sort of a half integral, although that's not really a thing. But still, the backspacer is built in, and so that's nice. It's one less part to lose, and it works very well. It gives you nice security to it, and it feels like it locks up very solidly, which I appreciate. So that's good. Price on this guy is $350, which is a lot of money, absolutely 100%, but honestly, it's not all that bad. I looked at that price like, huh, so I deal with that because the intricacy of the machining on this handle is there's a high amount of intricacy here because not only are things domed out, I mean you can see the entire handles are domed, but also you get all this fluting and whatnot. I really don't feel like that price is particularly bad, and so I like the price. That's pretty solid given what you're getting here. That's a nice thumb ramp, ergonomically speaking, and actually ergonomically speaking, once this is in your hand, it is pretty solid because you have nice grooves here. It stays in position. The clip actually being as wide and large as it is really does serve to fill the hand a little bit. And aside from the little bit in the back here, there aren't really hot spots with this guy, and so at least in my smaller hands, this works pretty well. And then finally, I think I mentioned it already, but this tiny flipper tab I freaking love because it is the anti-pocket pecker. I mean, compared to some knives that have a big old beak hanging off the back of it, this is a tiny flipper tab, but it works every time. And so that to me is what's very good about this knife is it's got tiny flipper tab. It's got a great thumb ramp with good ergonomics overall once it's in the hand. It has a $350 price tag, which I think is actually pretty reasonable given what you're getting here build quality wise. A lot of nice details, a great clip, and a reasonably slicey blade here, which is great. But to me, what is truly great about this knife is the action. This knife has a really satisfying action. This is one of those things that as a knife guy proves to the world that I am completely insane. Because listen to this. I don't know if the satisfaction of this is going to get across over the airwaves, over the waveform of the sound there. But it has this absolutely wonderful clack-shut sort of sound that is just great and feels really nice in the hand. This feels super solid, and indeed it is super solid in the lockup. I don't know whether that part of that is due to the half-integral construction. Maybe that's a factor. But look, whatever it is, this knife just feels spectacular. And I love, love, love flipping this guy. It's super solid, and it is not like a false shutty knife in any stretch of the imagination there. It may wear in a little bit more over time, but it does have this incredible bank vaulty sort of feeling that I love. And the sound, even frankly, this is a weird thing, but even shutting the knife, that feels great, and it sounds great. Oh, but anyways, so to me, what is great about this knife, in that weird, hard-to-quantify knife nerdy sense, is that this feels and sounds absolutely stellar in the action. Feels like a serious, high-quality tool, and so that's beautiful. On the bad side, couple of things. This has a relatively polarizing design, at least according to Instagram. Some folks absolutely love it. Some folks absolutely seem to hate it. And I didn't have anyone who's like, well, I have no feelings either way about this design. No, I mean, it went from, this is some kind of ugly batarang to oh my God, I want one on looks alone. And so that's something you can either take or leave, so to speak. Personally, I gotta be honest, I don't get it. The design doesn't particularly speak to me. And there were parts of it, like for instance, the blade hump really just didn't do anything for me here. But some folks are absolutely in love with it. And so, in some ways, look, there were a lot of designers out there like that. Todd Begg comes to mind. People either love it or they hate it. And this is another one of those. If you love it, then great. If you don't. So it's hard to call it bad. It's a thing, I guess. Next thing, I am not absolutely a huge fan of this little hole right here. Now, look, I totally get it. They probably had to drill a hole in order to get some kind of a machine or a saw or something in there in order to get and cut out this lock bar thing. But the hole being in there is kind of just a weird. The rest of the knife is so linear, and this line could match so well. I don't know. It's probably not possible in a machining context, but I'd love to see that reduced or gotten rid of or something like that. Not a big deal, though. Next thing, you do have to remove the clip to disassemble this knife, and it's not really necessary that is the case. But you can see here that these two screws underneath here are not accessible without taking this clip off. This isn't a big deal because taking the clip off is one screw. It's not so hard, but it is something that's maybe a slight pain in the neck because I would prefer it if I could get to these screws. I understand why that has to be the case, given, the layout of things. But yeah, that's a little bit of a frustration. The knife is absolutely on the heavy side. We're coming in at about 3.3-ish inches here, but we're coming in at 4.7 ounces. It's a little bit heavy, and it's absolutely dense, and that's not going to be great for a lot of people, I think. I would like to have a little bit more lock bar access. That wasn't a bad flip on the knife. That was, I forget to fully shut it. I mean, what you can see here is that there is no, cutout across here, and so really what you're doing is you're kind of jamming your finger in there laterally and downwardly. It works. I can unlock it reliably, but yeah. Then finally, I gotta say, I like their logo, but the positioning of it here just feels wrong to me because you've got all this big space here, and this just doesn't, it's not in line with anything. I would have liked to maybe seen it come up there or something like that. This logo position being just off-centered and yeah, like find the centroid of this thing and then just, I don't know. I'm nitpicking there, but it does kind of bug me in some serious sense. So, anyways, those are the bad things for me, is that the logo positioning bothers me in a completely trivial but absolutely frustrating sense. I'd like a little bit more lock bar access. You do have to remove the clip to disassemble it. I'm not a huge fan of this particular hole in the design here because I really think it breaks up the rest of the lines on this a little bit. The blade hump here is not doing anything for me as it makes the knife just wider in the pocket unnecessarily. And the design on this guy is polarizing, and you will love it or you will hate it. And, well, people fall on different sides. On the ugly front, although a lot of people find the knife itself ugly, that's not what that's about. Instead, ugly deals with things that are just, in my opinion, flaws. The first of those two things is that the edge of this guy is very, very close when closed. Now, okay, if I just rest my finger on here, I am touching the edge of this blade. And so this is a knife where I wouldn't feel comfortable sharpening. If I owned this guy, I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving this back little edge here sharp. And that's not good. It's something that frustrates me every time I see it. It's not as bad as some. The blade stock isn't super thick, and so it really does require a smaller finger like mine to be a problem. And practically speaking, because you've got this full backspacer, as you slide your hand across the knife here, it does mitigate some of the danger, but it still scares me. It's a little bit, for lack of a better term, it's creepy. It's just like I know that that's lurking in there, and that bothers me, and it's something I'd rather makers not do. But the biggest issue for me on this knife, 100%, is that this has a huge hot spot when opening. Because as you use a flipping knife, you need to push the knife against the palm of your hand right here, and then deploy the tab like so. But the problem is, this part that's pushing against the palm of your hand is right there, and so you can see from the course of this review, I have my Three Rivers knife Thunderbird marks right there. This is absolutely a raging triumph of form over function here. In order to have this wingtip there, this needs to be a relatively unchamfered surface. They've done a fair amount of rounding and whatnot, but in order for this to exist, this needs to be sharp, and if this is sharp, it's not going to feel great in the hand. And so for me, that is absolutely frustrating. But, you know, and I talked to the maker about it, and they just said, well, you know, it's meant to look pretty, and, you know, yeah, you're going to pay a price there. It's not about comfort, it's about sculpture. That's fine, but that bothers me, I'm going to be honest with you. So those are the two ugly things for me, is that it's got this huge hot spot when you're opening the knife that is really uncomfortable. You will pay a small price of pain every time you open this knife, and then the edge on this guy is creepily close when it is closed, and I can absolutely touch that if I want to. Hopefully it's not a big deal, and it's not as big a deal as some other knives I've handled lately. But anyways, let's go on ahead and go into the final conclusion. My conclusion is that this is a very well-made knife. I mean, 100%. Three Rivers, everything I've handled by them is well-made. The construction is beautiful. Got some very nice details. The action on this is really great in that unquantifiable, holy crap, this locks up nicely sense, and it is absolutely a sculpture, 100%. Some people love it, some people hate it. But this is a very, very, it's a nice knife in terms of how it was built. But it is not a knife that everyone's going to love. The styling is controversial 100%. The edge is a little close and closed, and form is definitely placed over function here. But ultimately, I think this knife is a matter of taste. It's not going to be a great choice for everybody. If you're looking at this knife and going, oh my god, that's gorgeous, I want one of these, you will look right past the flaws there, and it'll fly high for you. You will love this Thunderbird. However, if you do not love this design, if you are not head over heels for this particular aesthetic, then this Thunderbird, I think, is just going to leave you a little bit sore. Get it? Sore? Like a bird? No? Okay. Anyways, hope this has been interesting to you. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.